guys, welcome to our first official Anatomy and Physiology course video. Now in this video we're going to go over what anatomy and physiology is, why we're going to study it, some basic vocab to get us started, and that's about it. So why do we study anatomy and physiology, and what is it? So anatomy in itself is the study of structure of particular different pieces of organisms. Now in this course, we're going to focus mainly on human anatomy, but we're going to be using a lot of different model organisms to teach us about those human systems. Now, physiology is going to be more on the function end. So physiology is the function of those organs and how they work, how they interact, basically to give us the behaviors and mechanisms and essential life functions that we need to survive. So together, anatomy and physiology helps us have a better understanding of how our bodies work, what happens when we get sick, and what we can do to make sure that we maintain the best health possible. It's also about solving problems and thinking creatively. So you guys are going to be doing a lot of interesting activities in labs this year in this course. Okay, so along with anatomy and physiology, you probably expect we're going to be doing some dissections, which is true. Now, dissections aren't the entire course, but they're an important part of it. We're going to be having lots of other laboratory experiences as well, so other labs. We'll be doing case studies, we'll be looking at different types of important topics and doing presentations and activities and projects, so there's a lot of different components, but dissections are an important part of anatomy and physiology. Now, anatomy and physiology is not just about memorization, a lot of it's about understanding, so we want to make sure that you are thoroughly understanding the concepts that we're going to be going over, asking your own questions, and hopefully solving problems. So, with this guy's help over here, we're going to get started with some of the basic vocab that can help us figure out what we're talking about when we're doing these dissections. Now, in another introduction, we'll be talking about the different tools we have to complete these laboratory dissections and lab practicals. But right now, I just want to talk about some basic terms that you should be able to know when you're working with different organisms. Okay, first, anterior, posterior, dorsal, ventral. These are probably the four most important because you're going to see them all the time with lots of different organisms. Okay, anterior and posterior. Now for organisms that are positioned more like a dog or a cat or a fish, we're going to refer to anterior as more towards the head of that organism. Think about where the antenna are on an insect. That's antenna, anterior, get it? And posterior will be more towards the tail. But for organisms like us that are bipedal and upright, anterior is going to be the front, and posterior will be the back. Think about where your posterior side is. So anterior, front of the organism, posterior, back. But in this case, for this guy, anterior would be towards the head and posterior would be towards the tail. Don't mix it up. Now, dorsal and ventral. So dorsal is going to be the back side of an organism back here. Ventral, the stomach side of the organism. Now, if you speak French, this could be easy to remember because ventral sounds a lot like the word for stomach in French, which is ventre. But if you don't speak French, let's think of another way to remember it. Dorsal is easy because the dorsal is going to be on the back. Think about where the dorsal fin is on a shark. The dorsal fin is on the back side. So think about the back side of an organism. Dorsal, ventral. There we go. Two others, cranial and caudal. Now cranial probably sounds like cranium too, and you're right, it's going to be more towards the head. Caudal will be more towards the tail. So more towards the tail, think about like the caudal fin on a fish. That's on the tail end. So again, we could say that the nose is cranial to the mouth is caudal to the nose on this particular organism. So proximal is just going to be closer to a point of reference, and then distal will be further away from a point of reference. And we normally use distal when we're talking about our appendages. We'll say our fingers are distal to the elbow. Medial and lateral. We're going to divide our organisms up in planes frequently, or these imaginary planes. So if we drew a line down the middle of our organism here, and we'll talk about that in a different video, they would have a midline. So medial is going to be closer to that midline. Lateral will be further away from that midline. So we could say that the nose is medial and the ears are lateral in this case. Okay, so I think those are going to be the most important ones that we're going to go over for now. And we want to be thinking about, again, why we're studying this and how complicated the human body is. And if parts aren't functioning properly, what's going on? And that actually gets into the study of pathology, which is the cause and origin of disease and how that disease is going to affect the rest of the body. All right, so I hope you guys are excited about an exciting anatomy and physiology course. See you later. Bye.